Hi, John Graham, HoustonISO9000.com. We're talking about resources in ISO 9001 2015. Let's continue with section 7.5, documented information. In the old standard, we talked about documents and records. Now the standard combines it all and calls it documented information. First off, it says the standard says you will have the documents required by the standard. They're listed throughout the standard as maintain and retain documented information. More on that in a second. Then it says continue with the other documents needed by your organization. There may be a lot of other procedures and blank forms, etc., that you need to run your organization and achieve product quality. Now, let's talk about in the past, ISO 9001-2008 said they had documents, which meant before, and records, which were after. So documents were before, records were after. I would recommend you still maintain that concept, but continue and know that the new standard in 2015 says maintain, which means before, and retain. Anytime it says that you'll retain documented info, or retain DI, we call it documented info, the retain is R for records. So remember, retain means records, R for records. I highly recommend you have a procedure here. It's optional, but there's a lot of rules for controlling our documents that need to be listed out. And the standard says you will define that. The easiest place to do that is in a good procedure. So that's the procedure is optional. But I do have to have the appropriate identification of my documents and define the format and media. Lots of electronics come into play here. That's fine. You might want to think about what languages. There's a lot of people using different languages in facilities now. You might want to have multiple language documents. The standard says you'll review and approve these documents, not just before each original use. You want to review them periodically because your business continues to evolve, and those documents will not evolve unless you make them evolve. So that's why we review them. The standard also says they have to be available at the point of use or where needed. You think from the individual user standpoint, what's needed for that person? They have to have access. It can be electronic, it can be in paper documents in a binder, or both, whatever works, but you got to keep up with that documentation. So be careful what you create here. They do have to be adequately protected, especially records, so they don't get from unintended alteration. So for records, think about your retention time. Don't say forever or perpetually if you're keeping them in the computer. 4 or 5 years, because an auditor can ask you for something that goes way back if you don't define that, and that can cause problems. The last thing, documents of external origin. Think about that. There's a lot of, the ISO 9001 2015 standard is required. Auditors will ask you for that. There might be some API documents, ASME documents, machine manuals, preventive maintenance manuals you need to run machinery, a list of spare parts that you need to have. Some of these things can be online. If you put that in a table, you can just reference the URL that will get you straight to that on the internet. So a procedure up front, a table will be very handy for both before documents and after documents, which were our records. So start with a procedure, end with a table, make sure you have control.